A hugely consequential case hits the Supreme Court.
We will hear argument this morning in Case 19-1392, Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health Organization.
For the first time in almost 3 decades, the future of abortion rights in America is at stake, up for debate, as the justices consider the constitutionality of a Mississippi state law. 3 things you need to know. 1. This law bans abortions after the first 15 weeks of pregnancy. 2. If the justices uphold the law, this will effectively overturn Roe v. Wade. 15 weeks is about 2 months earlier than Roe allows. And 3. The difference now is this 6-3 conservative majority in the court. And the big question is, how will this majority grapple with Roe's precedent?
If they do overturn Roe, this could have an immediate impact. There are a dozen states that have post-Roe trigger laws that would mean that if Roe was overturned, abortion would be banned in those dozen states immediately.
Far more disturbing and frankly offensive was the Mississippi Solicitor General arguing that the court should overturn Roe v. Wade, which protects women's rights, because the court had previously overturned Plessy versus Ferguson, which restricted the rights of African Americans to participate in normal civic life without being subjected to segregation up until 1954, when it was negated by the landmark decision in Brown versus the Board of Education.
At some point, it's appropriate for the court to say enough, as it has in some of the great overrulings in Brown and in other cases where it said this is just enough. Justice Harlan had it right in dissent in Plessy when he recognized that all are equal.
Now, if that wasn't rancid enough, Justice Kavanaugh seemed to embrace that argument and went even further during his questioning of the lawyer for the Jackson Women's Health Organization.
The court overruled precedent, and it turns out if the court in those cases had listened and they were presented with arguments in those cases, adhere to precedent in Brown v. Board, adhere to Plessy on West Coast Hotel, adhere to Atkins, and adhere to Lochner. And if the court had done that in those cases, the country would be a much different place.
I understand we're talking about abortion here, but what is confusing is that if we were talking about the Second Amendment, I know exactly what we're talking about. If we're talking about the Fourth Amendment, I know what we're talking about because it's written, it's there. What specifically is the right here that we're talking about?
We are watching this court closely. We know that if this law is allowed to stand, it is an invitation to more than 20 states, particularly in the South and the Midwest, who will ban abortion. And we will have 2 states of abortion access in this country, people who can get one and people who can't.
This is a historic moment, and it's time for Roe v. Wade to be overturned. Roe was decided on a faulty premise, really. It's time for it to go back to states, allow the people to dictate their states' laws and what will be right for them.
We call on the Supreme Court to finally recognize Mississippi and every other state's right and duty to protect the unborn.
Didn't know that 1 in 3 Democrats are pro-life.
Into the abortion clinics.